evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jacob Bowman. I'm an audit supervisor with Patillo Brown & Hill. We are the city's outside auditing firm out of Waco. And I'm here this evening to present the audit and the annual financial report that y'all should have in front of you today. So every year, governments are required to receive a financial statement audit, cities, counties, schools, and the like. And the audit we did is for the fiscal year end September 30th, 2024. And I'm happy to present the results of that. I'll go ahead and spoil it before we go into some of the details. Unmodified opinion, a clean opinion. This year we call it unmodified. That's the technical word for it. But out of all the types of opinions we can issue on the accuracy of the financial statements, unmodified is the best. That means there were no issues, no material misstatements, and the best opinion you can get. So good news there. Officially, this annual financial report is the city's. These are y'all's financials. The only part of it that's really ours, I guess you could say, is the opinion letter on page 1. And there's another letter in the back of the report, but this is where we essentially say we applied auditing standards, we followed due diligence, and we are happy to say that y'all's books are in good shape and are following generally accepted accounting standards. So good news there, clean opinion. And in addition to that, we're also very concerned, not concerned, but interested in internal control. So just because a city or a county has clean books, do they have a system in place that will regularly result in having a clean set of books and reliable numbers? And so part of our audit is not only applying procedures to see are the numbers that are being reported as of September 30th, are they accurate? Or is there a system in place that produces good reports? And is payroll done properly? Is the purchasing cycle done properly? Stuff like that we're interested in. Is there an inherent fraud risk there? And so we're happy to say after even looking at that stuff, there's no significant risk in terms of fraud or misstatement or anything like that. So in addition to having a clean set of books, also the internal control side of things is looking good as well. I, of course, want to mention that the scope of our audit is not every dollar, every transaction, because that would take probably forever. It'd be auditing constantly, and I don't think anyone's interested in having an audit constantly. So yeah, there's a lot that, even with the kind of scope we have, looking at material transactions, sampling things, performing analysis, there's still a good bit of stuff we request and look at. And I'll kind of briefly go over some of the procedures we do and some of the things that we look at. Before I do that, one thing I always like to mention in this annual financial report is this brief section at the beginning called the Management's Discussion and Analysis. If y'all want some further reading of kind of like a executive summary of the report, a very condensed version, pages 4 through 9 are where I would go. Lots of good information there. Kind of a summary of the city year in review. Kind of shows the balance sheet, the income statement, y'all's capital asset activity, long-term debt activity. I find that this is a good portrayal of the city's finances. So just some further reading if you're interested there. So we're happy to say the audit procedures that we do during the audit help us get comfy with a lot of numbers. You can think of y'all's predominant revenues like sales tax and property tax. We confirm all of that with outside entities. So just like that, all the revenues audited, good to go from our perspective, which is a huge portion of the income statement. Additionally, think of cash at year end. Here it says that y'all have X amount of cash. We talk to the bank directly, confirm that that's the case, and there's no better audit evidence than that. So a big chunk of the balance sheet and the income statement we audit heavily, and that also includes payroll expenditures and capital-related expenditures. So we try to apply generally accepted auditing standards to essentially say, can these books, can this report be relied upon by outside users? Does it portray the city, kind of paint a picture of what's really going on in the city? And so our opinion is yes. That's kind of the summary of the audit opinion. Suppose next we could just take a look at some financials. Page 10 is one of the basic financials we call the statement of net position. In contrast to some of the fund level financial statements, which I'm sure a lot of y'all may see throughout various months, that's kind of interested in more of a 1 year at a time point of view, like how the general fund's reported. This statement here on page 10, I guess you could say it's more of an economic long-term outlook at the city's broad health, where we're accounting for capital assets, long-term debt. The other fund financial statements, including the general fund, don't actually account and have capital assets or debt on the balance sheet. So this one here takes into account all long-term transactions. If you look down at the bottom, it's a positive net position. I know the general fund being in a deficit, that is part of the unrestricted at the bottom. However, that's offset by net investment in capital assets. So a lot of y'all's resources are linked to capital assets y'all have bought over the years. So in the grand scheme of things, that positive net position of $4.9 million is a good thing. And likewise, in the business type activities column, which is the utility fund, it has a higher net position as well and continues to have a positive unrestricted net position. That's where I'll kind of move to next on page maybe 20 and 21. And for a fund whose whole purpose is to generate money, to be self-sufficient, this kind of illustrates how the utility fund looked like for FY24. The main things that stick out to me is positive operating cash flow. You'll see at the top of page 21. So the utility fund's making money, doing its job, and it's steadily having a net income year over year. So good news there. And our testing over the utility fund and that revenue went quite well too. A couple of minor points here at the end, and something a little bit different than last year. Last year, you may recall, y'all were what we call single audit, where y'all spend enough federal monies, predominantly the ARPA revenue that's been in the picture these past few years. Now that that's kind of coming to a close, this fiscal year, we didn't test any federal grants. If there's a certain threshold that's not surpassed in how much y'all spend, $750,000, then we don't test it. So this year, we didn't have to do any of that, which is a good thing, I think, especially no request items for all the extra testing that we've had to do over the years for ARPA, and no findings this year at all. I think last year we had a finding related to a prior period restatement we had, but this year, happy to say, no findings at all. So an improvement in terms from the prior year. So just to summarize, clean books, no findings, no question costs, no issues with compliance. We didn't look at every fathomable thing, but based on the procedures that we did do, we're confident in saying that the numbers in this annual financial report are accurate and are representative of the city's financial condition at September 30. So, noticed kind of ramble on there a little bit, but I want to open it up to any questions y'all may have on what is an audit, what are we doing, what's not an audit, any numbers in the report that I can discuss, any disclosures I can talk about. Open for any questions you'll have at this time. Yes. So this is the statement of cash flows. So this is a required disclosure that proprietary funds and for-profit funds like a utility fund have to show. And this shows you'll have beginning cash at October 1st of 2023, and then you'll have an ending amount in the bank, and this is showing what stuff happened from cash to go from point A to point B. What things did y'all spend? How did the utility fund earn cash? And so that includes not just your checking account, but any investments that the utility fund also has would be in that number. And this is strictly the utility fund. This doesn't involve any other governmental funds. Governmental funds aren't required to disclose a statement of cash flows since they're inherently not profit-generating funds. So I hope that maybe answer your question on what the cash equivalence is. I like this statement a lot. I think it paints a pretty simple picture of what's going on. In the business world, operating cash flow being positive is a very important indicator. And so y'all to consistently have positive operating cash flow is huge. And so that's there at the top. And then it shows how the utility fund is transferred out money to other funds to kind of subsidize those other funds, and the money that the utility fund is paid on capital improvements. So after even all of that, payroll, capital improvements, paying, transferring money to other funds, it's still in the positive for the utility fund. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right. I'm so surprised the rain. It was sunny when I got here. It's crazy.
Okay, now, broken down, is that broken down somewhere else?
No, ma'am. There's not another statement in these financials that shows specifically every aspect of these categories on the statement of cash flows. But it's, yeah, I don't think there's anywhere that is more detailed. You can see, if you're maybe interested in the capital asset activity that the utility fund, you know, what capital assets they bought, which is a cash outflow. There's a disclosure for that. The transfer out, you can see payments to other funds of about 1.3 million. There's a separate table in the notes to the financial statements further on showing what fund that was made to. But in terms of the details behind what this operating cash flow derives from, there's no other statement in the report that can necessarily back into those numbers. But it's essentially, this is where the rules of accounting can kind of get messy. Operating cash flow is just another flavor of operating income on page 20. But page 20 uses an accrual basis of accounting, which involves, you know, accounts payable, accruals, depreciation, like non-cash items, whereas page 21 is the only consideration is money going in and out of the bank. There's no consideration of depreciation, accrued liabilities and stuff like that, receivables. So, but having positive operating income and cash flow, both positive is good. You don't see that everywhere, so it's helpful.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
So the bottom line is you got a clean report
Yes, ma'am.
and there are no findings.
Correct. No findings at all this year. Last year there was, but this year there's not one. It was resolved, and this year's audit went really smooth. Yeah, it's like there's sometimes where if there's some restatement, there has to be a finding, but in terms of our assessment of internal controls, fraud risk, mishandling of funds, no findings and no risk that we need to disclose to you about those areas too. So positive news. Is there any other questions at this time? I want to say a special thanks to Suzanne and her team. It's a big ask on audit, so she makes it easy on us. So thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so another audit under our belt. All right, Andy, do you have any citizens' comments? Moving on. All right, we're moving on to discussion items. Staff report for Celebrate America Festival.
All right, Chief, while we couldn't be here tonight, he is attending the Tarrant County ESD meeting right now, so he couldn't be here with us here. But Celebrate America went really well. We had great feedback this year on the setup. The setup was, we set it up in a more circular fashion, so to kind of bring people kind of in a circle around the stage. We had a lot of compliments on the setup. The tent was a big hit to be able to allow people to get out from underneath the beating sun and cool off a little bit the blisters. So overall, we had really good feedback, and we're excited to take that feedback and start working on plans for next year.
All right. Moving on to consideration and possible action. A, resolution number 2025-06-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Everman, Texas, accepting the fiscal year 2024 annual audit report as presented and attached hereto as Exhibit A, providing an effective date. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-06-03 as read.
Second? No, that's a question. Okay. All right, Mindy, would you poll the council?
Aye. Place 3.
Aye.
Place 4.
Aye.
Place 5.
Aye.
Place 6.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right. Moving on to item B, ordinance number 835, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Everman, Texas, Chapter 2 Administration, Article 2 Council, by amending Section 2-21 Meetings, subsection A of the code, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing a severability clause, providing a savings clause, and providing an effective date. I will entertain a motion.
I make the motion to approve ordinance number 835 as read.
Oh, second.
All right, Minnie, does anybody want to discuss it? This is we're moving to one meeting a month on the second Tuesday at 6 p.m. And then any other meetings that might be called throughout the month. Okay. Minnie, would you poll the council?
Yes, ma'am. Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5,
Aye.
place 6. Gotcha. Motion carried.
Do you see any rain falling?
I know.
I don't either.
It's very misleading.
Does anyone have anything to add to that? My mic is on. Oh, you're telling me my mic is on.
So to answer your question, there is no requirement for them to be residents of the city. But as employees, they would probably behoove that we have to consider them to be residents. I think our staff recommendation last time was that we would recommend that you have business knowledgeable folks serving on the TIP. We do have some staff projects for consideration that we would like to start bringing to the TIP for them to consider this next year, including some park improvements and infrastructure improvements within the TIP development. So we just want to make sure that the people that are serving in that capacity are knowledgeable about business functions, I should say.
Well, could we not table this to the next meeting then? Because I didn't know it needed to be residents.
Yes. This is one of those committees that we're going to keep bringing forward, if I remember the mayor saying that, until we get it filled.
So yeah, the rules and regulations state that if there's a vacancy, we have to place it on the next agenda. So, yes, and then you're correct, if you do choose to pull it, it can be pulled.
All right. I'll entertain a vote.
We entertain a motion.
A motion
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table this item until the next meeting. Linda, would you poll council?
Place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4, place 5,
Aye.
place 6. Aye. Motion carried.